Small but perfectly formed, the Mini continues to rule the premium style-conscious section of the small car market, primarily with this three-door hatch model. Let's find out why. The original British Mini was one of the iconic cars of the 20th century. When we look back on this 100 years, who's to say that we won't be talking about its BMW-owned successor in the same terms? Now this is the second generation Mini, launched in 2005, as subsequently available both as a Clubman estate and as a pretty convertible. It's the three-door hatch version though that we're looking at here. Now this improved model had a much tougher task than the German-funded but British designed and built year 2001 original. Now that car proved just how much people were prepared to pay for a small, cute runabout with quality, style and its own cheeky brand of class, prompting a whole host of imitators, all with this hatchback version firmly in their sights. As a result, by the time the Mark II Mini arrived, with its extra power, greener emissions and slightly more spacious interior, the market was being flooded by a whole host of little lifestyle cars, a list that now includes models like Fiat's 500, Alfa's Mito, Audi's A1, Citroen's DS3 and Nissan's Cube. Is there still a place then for the Mini, the original? Let's find out. First, the good news. This is still one of the best handling small cars around, with a go-kart-like feel, abundant grip and responsive electromechanical power steering that encourages you to flick the thing from corner to corner with an ever-widening grin. Now, inevitably this means a ride quality that's slightly on the firm side, but it'll be fine even over long distances, providing you don't make the mistake of filling the wheel arches with huge alloys. At the wheel there's a mature, grown-up feel, thanks to impressive refinement and a quality cabin. All well and good, but in feebler powered models it was pretty difficult to enjoy all this joie de vivre, thanks to entry-level engines that had so little torque that you had to drive almost everywhere foot virtually flat to the floor. Now, aware of the problem, BMW refettled the most basic Mini units, creating an all 1.6 litre engine range using their Valvetronic variable valve timing system that saw even the lowest powered 75 and 98 brake horsepower units with up to 17% more pulling power. There were improvements to the Cooper as well, up to 122 brake horsepower, and the Cooper S with its turbocharged engine now developed 184 brake horsepower, edging ever closer to the 211 brake horsepower John Cooper Works hot hatch range topper. Torque was never an issue for the diesel version, also 1.6 litres and developing 110 brake horsepower. Now the result of all this is that even this most basic 75 brake horsepower Mini First model with its 140 Newton meters of torque is a car that you could genuinely look forward to driving, despite its apparently leisurely 13.2 second 0 to 62 mile/hour sprint time. You may well still feel, however, that a trade up to the now pokier 98 brake horsepower Mini One with its expanded 153 Newton meters torque figure represents £1,500 well spent, reducing as it does the 0 to 60 increment to just 10.5 seconds. That's a tad slower than the 1.6 litre diesel version. Up to half of all Mini buyers though very often find themselves at the wheel of the 122 brake horsepower petrol Cooper models, and you can see why. This variant gives you pretty much everything you get in the 184 brake horsepower Cooper S bar the turbocharger, and it's almost as much fun to drive for a lot less money. In fact, given a twist enough road, you could even see its driver keeping the top of the line 211 brake horsepower John Cooper Works Mini in sight. It is in short a great steer, as every Mini should be. Now, if like me you find the Mark II Mini looks a little less distinctive than those of the year 2001 original, you'll be pleased to know that the small visual tweaks responsible were at least made in the name of safety. A bigger nose was required to meet tougher crash test legislation, necessitating a set of body panels that did away with the complex curvature around the front lights that gave the older Mini a bit more character, but also made it expensive to make. But these are detail things. The basic three-door hatchback shape is still essentially the same one that so many fell in love with at the turn of the century, and it's still a major reason for Mini purchase. Now, this is a small car, so you'll be expecting it to be somewhat cramped inside, in which case you'll probably be pleasantly surprised by the amount of room available to both driver and front seat passenger. There's plenty of head and legroom, and the wide range of adjustment for both the seat and the steering wheel means that finding the ideal driving position is easy. Now, the dash, of course, is dominated by this huge round speedometer, a nod to Sir Alec Isagonis's 1959 original, the ease of use of which is in contrast to the rather fiddly heating and ventilation controls here. Gone are those indicators that felt like you were snapping a biro every time you use them, and there are modern touches like the replacement of the old-fashioned ignition key by this signal sensor that slots in next to the steering wheel next to a start-stop button. Your dealer can also tell you about this colour change sensor for the interior light that enables you to alter the pastel shades of the interior when you're driving at night. Rear seat space, of course, is at much more of a premium, and despite the designer's attempts to create recessed knee cutouts in the fabric trimmed front seat backs, your general level of journey comfort will be largely dictated by the size the passengers travelling ahead of you and their general sensitivity to your plight. The boot, though 10 litres bigger than the Mark I model and featuring these useful luggage nets to stop your items sliding around under cornering, is still on the compact side at 160 litres. Now, if that's not enough, or you don't think you're going to be able to regularly extend it by folding forward these 50-50 split rear seat backs, if you do that, you get up to 680 litres. If that's not going to be enough, then you've got the option of going for the novel Club and Estate Mini with its unique twin opening rear doors and its luggage capacity of between 260 and 930 litres. Now, list pricing for this three-door hatch model suggests that theoretically you can enjoy Mini motoring for under £12,000. In practice, you'll probably end up paying somewhere in the £13,000 to £15,500 bracket for the Mini One and Cooper versions that most customers end up buying, with turbocharged Cooper S motoring starting from just over £17,000 and the fiery John Cooper Works variant priced at over £21,000. Now, you'll need a £1,000 premium on top of these figures if you want the Clubman Estate, and a £2,500 premium model for model if you want the Pretty Convertible. So what to compare that against? Well, a Fiat 500 will cost you probably a couple of £1,000s less. A more badge-conscious alternative like Alfa Romeo's Mito will cost you only a few £100s less. Now, most customers choose either 75 brake horsepower Mini first, 98 brake horsepower Mini One, or 122 brake horsepower Mini Cooper models, with a few going for the 110 brake horsepower 1.6 litre diesel. If you can afford its price premium though, the 184 brake horsepower turbocharged Cooper S variant is now surprisingly affordable to run, offering most of the virtues of the eye-wateringly expensive John Cooper Works flagship hot hatch model. Whichever Mini you choose, you should find it reasonably equipped, with all models fitted out with electric front windows, remote central locking and a CD stereo, and there's also air conditioning on most of the variants in the range. For much else, you're forced to turn to a huge options list. Though at least the main features you'll want are easy to find, grouped together in trendily named packs. At least the basic engineering and safety features aren't optional. You can expect to find front, side and cabin length window airbags, 6-speed manual gearboxes across the range and the option of a 6-speed automatic, ISOFIX child seat mountings, clever anti-lock brakes that work mid-bend without unsettling the car, even standard stability control. Now, even if you're expecting your Mini to be affordable to run, the actual figures it returns might pleasantly surprise you. This 75 brake horsepower Mini First that I'm driving here manages 52.3 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and puts out 127 grams per kilometre of CO2. Figures duplicated by the 98 brake horsepower Mini One and even the 122 brake horsepower Mini Cooper. Even the turbocharged 184 brake horsepower Mini Cooper S manages 48.7 miles to the gallon on a combined cycle and puts out just 136 grams per kilometre of CO2. Mighty impressive figures for a hot hatch capable of 140 miles an hour and rest to 60 in around 7 seconds. If economy is your number one priority though, the 72.4 miles to the gallon Cooper D diesel model with its 104 grams per kilometre of CO2 showing takes some beating. Insurance groupings range between 5 and 8 for mainstream models, but if you go for the Cooper S or the JCW hot hatch variants, you're up to between 15 and 17 groupings. Residual values are still class leading and running costs are very low too, particularly if you opt for the attractively priced TLC scheme which covers you for routine servicing for up to 5 years or 50,000 miles. British built and still a benchmark in the premium small car segment, the Mini remains a car easy to imitate but difficult to beat. Others may be more stylish or slightly bigger, but can't rival its fun factor and everyday affordability. And those, after all, are two of the main reasons for buying a car of this kind. Back in 1959, when he created the British original, Sir Alec Isigonis knew that. I think he'd have been pleased at how his creations turned out.